Let's jump right in. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tackling a feeling I know we are all way too familiar with. You know that exhausting sensation where you're incredibly busy all day long running around, but you hit bedtime and realize, wait, I didn't actually get anything truly productive done. Well, we're going to explore some really profound concepts from the text 12 Steps to a Good Life to help us escape what we're calling the Procrastination Playground. So get ready, because we're about to map out a super clear visual path to using the Eisenhower Matrix for productivity, reclaiming your time, and honestly, saving your sanity.
Seriously, think about this for a second. Who is actually in charge of your decisions? Like when you sit down, fully intending to work on a really meaningful project. But then, suddenly you find yourself scrolling through social media or, I don't know, perfectly alphabetizing your spice rack. Who made that choice? Our source material frames this whole personal development struggle not just as a boring time management issue. No, it's a heroic internal battle. Literally, it's a battle for control over your own mind.
Okay, let's dive into this. According to our source, there's basically a cast of 3 primary characters living right inside your head, wrestling for the steering wheel every single day. First up, we've got the rational decision maker. This is the smart you, the one that plans ahead and really wants to do the right thing. Next, we meet the instant gratification monkey. Now this character lives purely in the moment, absolutely hates hard work, and has a genius-level talent for distracting you with instant comfort. And finally, the panic monster. This beast only wakes up when a deadline is terrifyingly close, forcing you into total emergency action.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The Procrastination Playground. 2. The Eisenhower Matrix Explained. 3. Beware the Panic Monster. 4. Mastering Quadrant 2. And 5. Tools for meaningful action.
All right, starting with Section 1, the Procrastination Playground. So the playground is basically this mental space where your rational decision maker is trying desperately to focus on important long-term goals. But the instant gratification monkey? Yeah, it's actively pulling you away. The monkey doesn't care about your future or your deep values. It literally only cares about what's easy and comfortable right now, in the present moment. If you have ever abandoned a massive project to suddenly deep clean your kitchen, yep, you've been hijacked by the monkey in the playground.
Moving right along to Section 2, the Eisenhower Matrix Explained.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it highlights the critical distinction between 2 words we constantly confuse: urgent and important. This matrix is the ultimate tool for productivity. Urgent tasks are all tied to deadlines and crises. When we act on urgent things, we're usually just acting out of fear or pressure. Important tasks, on the other hand, well, those are tied to your core values and your long-term planning. When you act on important things, you're acting out of purpose. Understanding this difference, that is the absolute secret to defeating the monkey. So let's break this matrix down into its 4 distinct quadrants.
Okay, Quadrant 1. This is both important and urgent. It's the dreaded zone of crises, absolute emergencies, and those looming deadlines. Remember the characters we just talked about? Well, this quadrant is where the panic monster fully takes over. Basically, the monkey has wasted all your time, and now the panic monster is forcing you to do the work right this second, usually in a state of absolute adrenaline-fueled terror. Look, it gets the job done, sure, but man, it is an exhausting way to live.
Next up is Quadrant 2, important but not urgent. Honestly, guys, this is the magic zone. This includes your long-term planning, practicing real skills, nurturing relationships, and actually living out your values. Now, because these things don't have immediate fiery deadlines attached to them, the panic monster just ignores them entirely. But your rational decision maker, it completely thrives here. This is hands down the most productive space you can possibly be in. It's exactly where you build a truly meaningful life entirely without the stress.
Then we drop down into Quadrant 3, urgent but not important. The phone ringing, a sudden text message, a massive pile of dirty dishes in the sink. These things feel incredibly urgent in the moment, so they totally trick you into feeling like you're being productive. But actually, they aren't important to your long-term goals at all. You're just spinning your wheels here, acting busy to avoid doing the real, meaningful work we just talked about in Quadrant 2. Honestly, it's kind of exasperating just thinking about it.
And finally, we have Quadrant 4, not important and not urgent. This is just pure, unadulterated distraction. Mindless scrolling on social media, binge-watching random shows you don't even really like. This right here is the procrastinator's paradise. When you're hanging out in Quadrant 4, the instant gratification monkey has completely won the battle, and your poor, rational decision maker is quite literally tied up in a closet somewhere.
Which brings us to Section 3, beware the panic monster.
You know, the panic monster might seem like a total lifesaver at first because it finally scares away that monkey, but you really have to look at the cost here. It forces you to live almost exclusively in quadrant 1. It completely derails your rational decision maker because, let's face it, you simply cannot think clearly when your brain is in absolute panic mode. And worst of all, it means your entire productivity relies on fear instead of your actual personal values. It just creates a highly stressful, totally unmanageable way of living.
I want to contrast that feeling of panic with this really powerful quote from Brian Tracy, which was highlighted in our source material. He says, "The ability to concentrate single-mindedly on your most important task, to do it well, and to finish it completely is the key to great success, achievement, respect, status, and happiness in life." Now, notice how he doesn't mention rushing or harsh deadlines or fear anywhere in there. He's talking about focused concentration. And that kind of focus, it's only possible when you finally evict the panic monster and step into a totally different quadrant.
That leads us nicely into Section 4, Mastering Quadrant 2.
Like we said, Quadrant 2 is your most productive space by far. It is where you work proactively on the things that actually matter, way before they ever become emergencies. You're working without stress and you're using your energy so much more effectively. So the crucial point is this: true productivity using the Eisenhower matrix isn't about doing a million things in a total panic. It's about spending as much quality time in Quadrant 2 as humanly possible. As the source actually notes, if you are a habitual procrastinator, you literally cannot overdo Q2.
Finally, Section 5, Tools for Meaningful Action. Thankfully, our source provides a fantastic, highly actionable tool called the radar method to help short-circuit that procrastination in real time. It's just 3 steps. First, reflect. Just pause for a second and examine what you're actually feeling when you want to avoid a task. Are you anxious? Are you just bored? Second, describe. Honestly label those thoughts to yourself without any judgment at all. Acknowledge that the monkey is there. And third, respond. Take one intentional, value-based action. Don't just react out of habit. Respond with clear purpose to push yourself right back into Quadrant 2.
And that builds directly into our next tool, implementation intentions. This is such a brilliant way to bypass the need for willpower entirely. You basically pre-decide your actions using if-then statements. So for example, if I feel tired, then I will stretch for 10 minutes. By deciding exactly how you're going to handle an obstacle before it even happens, you leave absolutely no room for the monkey to negotiate with you. You've already programmed the right response.
And here's another beautifully simple hack, the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, just do it immediately. Seriously, don't write it down, don't try to schedule it, just knock it out. This incredibly effective little rule keeps all those pesky Quadrant 3 tasks, like rinsing a coffee mug or sending a super quick confirmation email, from piling up into this massive mountain that causes you future anxiety. It just keeps your mental space clean for the big, important work.
All of these productivity tactics we've covered today, the matrix, the radar method, defeating the monkey, they aren't really just about getting more chores done. As this beautiful quote from the source reminds us, a good life is not a perfect life. It is a life honestly lived. True productivity is really about doing the necessary work so that you actually have the time, the peace, and the energy to live a virtuous, balanced, and authentic life.
So right now, at the end of this explainer, I challenge you to apply the Eisenhower matrix. Identify just one important thing that aligns with your deep values. Just one single Quadrant 2 action. Ask yourself right now, what is the next right thing? Can you defeat the monkey, even if it's just for the next 5 minutes? Thanks so much for joining me on this one, and I'll see you next time.